Let's talk about ghosts. G'day to all you lovely people and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy and today I wanted to talk about book 3 in the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher called Grave Peril. I actually don't have the book with me because it was part of a box set. One of the books was damaged, so I had to return the entire box set. Don't ask me why they wouldn't accept just the damaged book. Regardless, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Grave Peril. Briefly, the main plot involves all these ghosts that are appearing in Chicago and causing havoc. I think on the back of the blurb, they describe it as Chicago has gone loco. However, I cannot say that this is really a humorous book. Not that funny things don't happen. Funny things always happen in the Dresden File books. It's just that it is, I feel, darker in tone even than the previous books, which seems to be the trend. The ghosts that are appearing are not like Casper, your friendly ghost. These ones are quite violent and dangerous. In addition to the main plot regarding the ghosts, there are 2 other subplots, if you want to call them that. One involves the vampires. I was very pleased to see the author talking about the vampires again because I definitely wanted to know more about them. Harry is invited to a ball held by the Red Vampire Court. I didn't even know that there was a red court, but there's also a white court of vampires and a black court of vampires. And we get to meet some of them in this book. Another subplot involves an attack on Harry himself and those that he cares about. From what I've observed, Butcher never just deals with one storyline. There's usually several running together throughout the books. Unlike the first 2 books, this one is not so much a murder mystery. However, it is a mystery. And also, unlike the first 2 books, we are dropped into the middle of the investigation and playing catch up as such. We meet Harry together with this new character Michael as they are fighting a ghost. I really like that the author changed it up, that we're not just taken to a crime scene and then Harry investigates. As I said, we play catch up in this one, trying to work out who Michael is and what exactly is going on. There are several new characters that we meet in this book. Michael is a virtuous, chivalrous, righteous, pious man who is basically a knight, a modern day knight who still has all the clothing that comes with what we imagine a knight is. He has a magical sword, he also has a cloak, etc. I can just imagine him walking through Chicago with this cloak and sword. I absolutely loved the banter and conversations between Harry and Michael. I thought they were hysterically funny at times because Michael is very pious and virtuous and Harry is irreverent and mischievous and cheeky and disrespectful. So I loved seeing them interacting together and seeing this bond of friendship between them. I also think Michael is a great contrast to Harry. Here we have this very honourable, chivalrous, virtuous knight who doesn't seem to ever do anything wrong. He seems actually a little too perfect. And then we have Harry, who is honourable. However, he is capable of dark deeds. He is capable of anger and fury and taking out his anger on the villains. I have never seen him take it out on innocents, but I guess there's always that potential, right? That he might one day cross the line. I thought that was very well done because it shows us two different types of heroes. We have the ones who never seem to do anything wrong, and then we have the other, Harry, who is flawed, who is capable of making mistakes and paying for them usually, but who wants to do the right thing just as much as Michael does. Yeah, I really love that part. Another character that we met is Harry's fairy godmother. Wow, did I love her. I thought she was hysterically funny and yet absolutely lethal. She was a character I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved the way Butcher wrote her. She seems not funny deliberately by any stretch of the imagination. It's just her attitude towards Harry and the mess that Harry has made with respect to his godmother made the situation funny. She is definitely one of my favorite characters from this book anyway. And I loved learning a little bit more of the Fae or the Cid. I love learning more about the Never Never, how it operates. There are a lot of things that Butcher added to this which built upon the magical world he's creating. Brick by brick, I feel, with each book. Another new character we meet is Thomas, a White Court vampire. I found him fascinating. I was very curious to find out just why he seems amiable towards Harry. That's all I want to say. Oh, I should have mentioned Charity. I just loved Charity. I didn't like that she was so hard on Harry, but I just loved her character. She was so strong and fierce in protecting Michael, who really doesn't need it. But she was also an interesting addition to this cast of characters that we are adding to, it seems, with each subsequent book. I have mentioned before, I am a huge fantasy fan, as you guys know, and I am absolutely loving that Butcher is spending more time with the fantastical, showing us more of his magical world. I feel it is extremely well done. It seems complicated, complex, very well thought out, and I can't wait to see what else he has in mind in relation to this magical realm. We learn a little bit more about the White Council. Not too much though, just a little. We learn that apparently the White Council, which is the governing body for wizards, has an accord with other magical creatures that if you're invited under the rules of hospitality, no one is allowed to spill any blood. There are all these new things that the author is adding, and it's what is making this world so appealing to me anyway, as a fan of fantasy. It seems to me that with each book, the author will deal with one particular species of magical creature. The first book dealt with a wizard, the second one with werewolves. This one, we're mainly dealing with vampires. However, there is also a crossover into ghosts as well. Whilst the ghost story you think is the main plot, I think it is almost secondary to the person or thing that is targeting Harry and his friends. So what did I love about this book? I loved the pace. There was just so much going on with 3 storylines. It seemed that if it wasn't one thing, it was something else that was happening. I loved the new characters, particularly Harry's godmother and Michael. Michael is one of these almost too good to be true characters. There are people like that, so I can accept that. And I loved him for just how honourable and uncompromising he is, but in a different way to Harry. I love this contrast between Harry and Michael, both heroes and yet different. I love the relationship that Harry has with Michael, and even though he may not feel he is worthy of being a knight, I think that Harry is just as worthy because he is prepared to go that extra mile if need be to get the job done. Whereas Michael seems to me to be more like Murphy. She is not prepared to break any rules, even though it may result in, say, somebody dying. Harry is not as willing to follow the rules if it is going to end up in an injustice. I admire that anyway. I absolutely love what he did at the end. Yeah, I just loved it. I'm not going to tell you what he did, but his solution in the vampire court, and that is all I'm going to say, was admirable. I thought so anyway. In Grave Peril, as Harry is the target of an attack, Harry and his friends, people he cares about, we get to see just what lengths he will go to protect those he cares about and to protect himself. I feel that that showed me another layer of who Harry Dresden is. And I loved him. Yeah, I loved what he did. If I haven't said it already, something else I really loved was Harry's relationship with his fairy godmother. Wow, that was just so much fun. It helped lighten the atmosphere occasionally, or the mood, because this book seemed very dark in tone. Another thing I really liked is, I know I have criticised the wolf pups from book 2, but part of me was hoping that the author would develop them more, and he's starting to. And I actually am finding I'm enjoying these characters more, particularly Billy. Really, we only know Billy and Georgina, I think it is. But at least I'm starting to get a better understanding of who these characters are. It seems to me that with all these books, more and more characters we meet in previous books will appear in future books. So keep that in mind if you're reading this series, that you really can't skip any because they are consecutive and they do reference not just things that happen but also characters. One of my favourite parts of Grave Peril was learning a lot more about the vampires, their hierarchy, their societies, the different courts and the different types of vampires. We didn't learn that in the first book, so it was interesting to see the author expand the vampiric world. Not because I'm a huge fan of vampire books, I'm really not, but it is another aspect of this magical world. Looking back on it, because it's been now several weeks since I've read the book, I've had time to digest it. Initially, I wasn't sure if I really loved it. I didn't hate it, I just didn't love it. But now, I really did love this book. I've had time to dwell on all those things that I like the fairy godmother, learning more about the vampires, Michael himself, what Harry is prepared to do when people are in danger. All these things have added up to me really appreciating this book even more. But I do need to point out a couple of things I didn't like about it. Not enough Murphy, which isn't a real criticism, of course, but we really don't spend enough time with Murphy, who has definitely become one of my favourite characters. The other thing I didn't like was the character of Susan. I still feel I don't have a great sense of who this character is, of what kind of person she is. I feel I understand Michael a hell of a lot better, and we only met him in book 3. Whereas Susan, we've had 3 books to learn about her, and yet she still seems superficially drawn to me. Now, I have to admit that perhaps one of the reasons I don't like Susan is because I don't think she's good enough for Harry. Seriously, I don't want her to be with Harry. So perhaps that is colouring my view of Susan. But I don't think it's because I just don't like this character. It's more that I don't know who she is. I don't know enough about her to really like or dislike her. Something else I didn't like is that up to the 3rd book, I hadn't really felt that Harry and Susan's relationship was that intense. And yet we start off being told that Harry loves Susan. It didn't ring true for me. I hadn't seen enough groundwork laid in previous books that was a possibility. Their relationship seemed very casual to me. Even, I could say, mutual using of each other. I didn't think it was this grand love affair, so that I found hard to swallow in book 3. Do I recommend Grave Peril? Definitely. I really enjoyed this. In fact, on reflection, I realised I actually enjoyed it even more than the first 2 books. But be aware, the books seem to be getting darker in tone. Not that they weren't dark to begin with. These are certainly not light-hearted, fluffy books. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But it seems that things get more grim with each subsequent book. I actually don't mind that. It makes it more suspenseful for me because I never know what to expect with a book. I highly recommend Grave Peril. It is just as good as all the others. In fact, I think it is my favourite so far. I found it hysterically funny at times. The godmother. Seriously, she is so funny. Or Harry's reaction to her, I should say, is very, very funny. I love what Harry wore when he went to the Red Vampire Court, and that is all I'm going to say. There was just so many hilarious moments in this book, and yet that didn't take away from the horrible things that did happen, because there were quite a few horrible things that happened. So what score would I give Grave Peril? I'm going to give this 6.5 to a 7. Yeah, I'm really debating whether it deserves a 7, but it definitely deserves 6.5. Well, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know if you have read Grave Peril and what your thoughts are on it. You know I would love to discuss it further with you. Thank you so very much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you can do the usual. You can like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Bye!